Hey, what's up everybody? OJ here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about Monolith Soft's new IP, what's going on with the studio, what they could be working on, and pretty much everything to do with the studio. It's been a while since our last Monolith Soft update, and a lot of you guys have been asking me, what's up with Monolith Soft? You guys want to talk about them? Well, let's go ahead and jump right into that. So recently they did put out a gender diversity type of chart, which they've done for a while, and it's pretty much the same right around what they've always been, which is 70% male to around 30% female, which is pretty good when it comes down to it. 70-30 split, or in the 70s to 20s, or whatever the case is. I think that's pretty good. It's good that Monolith Soft is out there hiring great female developers in order to get into the workforce and kind of balance things out just a bit. So they did talk about that recently, but also another thing, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I've made multiple videos about this game. Obviously, everyone is excited to check it out, but if you did miss the news, there has been some rumblings and some rumors that Monolith Soft is gearing up for a May or June release for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. We've talked about the rating in Korea. There's been the game that's rated. Usually when a game is rated, that means it's nearing its release, and it's pretty much complete because everything that you need for the rating to be complete in terms of what's in the game, what they've added, all of that stuff has to be looked over and approved for the rating board in terms of where you're going to release the game. Also, ESRB has rated it as well. So once again, ESRB is probably the most stringent. That and like PEGI in terms of like normal places. Obviously, China is completely different. But yeah, they're pretty stringent on certain things. So obviously the game is complete. Now there's probably just bug fixing, stuff like that, going over, just kind of final polish. But all the content that's going to be in the game is already in there. Anything new that they're adding in, any new scenes, new areas, stuff like that, all that has to be pretty much complete at this point to get those ratings. Or if they did add anything, it wouldn't be anything that was drastically different from what's already in the game because of that ESRB rating. So pretty cool to see that Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is nearing up for release. Now we did get a rumor just recently from VentureBeat, which has a pretty solid track record, that there will be an Indie World presentation on March 18th. Then there will be a regular Nintendo Direct on March 26th. So that is next week for the Indie World presentation, and then the following Thursday for the normal Nintendo Direct. And I fully expect Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition to be announced in terms of release date, in terms of special editions, anything that they're going to be doing, maybe a controller or whatever the case is, right? Because we did get a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 controller. I think it'd be really cool if we got a Xenoblade Chronicles 1 Definitive Edition controller, special edition, all that good stuff. So if anything's going to be announced when it comes to the game, I think it's going to be announced there. But I also think that they could announce whatever they're working on next on top of that, because we have known about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for quite some time now, and I think that they might let us know what they're working on next, which we're going to talk about in just a bit. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, of course, is going to be awesome. For those who have never played a Xenoblade game, this is the first game that started the epicness that is Xenoblade. It's spanned multiple games now. We've got 4 games if you count Torn of the Golden Country, and I think that Definitive Edition arguably is maybe the best game out of all of the Xenoblade games. And heck, you can maybe even say it's the best game out of all of the Xeno games, dating back to when Monolith Soft was with Square Enix and was with Bandai and all that, with Xenogears and also with Xenosaga and all of that. So I do think that this is a game that you guys definitely need to check out, especially if you're an RPG fan. Now, moving on to the next thing here, guys. Some of you guys have been asking about, okay, well, what else is Monolith Soft doing? They have all these studios, right? And for those who don't know, they have like 5 different studios across Japan that are all working on various different things. They have like the A-Team, which of course is working on like the big projects, right? Which would be their new IP, which we're going to talk about, and also would be stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. They have the supplementary teams that are working on stuff like The Legend of Zelda, for example, which they've been helping out with Zelda games for a long time. People don't know this, but Skyward Sword, also Breath of the Wild, they've been helping out with Zelda games for a long time, and they're helping out with probably with Breath of the Wild too. They're probably helping out with that, so that's what some of their other teams are doing. Monolith Soft has a very good grasp of open-ended games, huge action or huge RPG games, so Nintendo often brings them in to help out with the landscaping, to help out with the pace and the flow of a huge game like that. So a lot of their teams are helping out with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 or the sequel or whatever you want to call it. So looking forward to seeing how that game turns out. Maybe we get something at the most recent Nintendo Direct about the new Legend of Zelda game, which of course Monolith Soft will be credited on that as well. Now let's move on to kind of the big two topics here that people want to talk about, and that is their new IP and also the next thing that they're doing after Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So let's start with the new IP first, because this has been something where they kind of teased a while back. They talked about hiring for a brand new game, and many people have speculated in terms of what this game is going to be. Now, I personally think it's going to be action RPG with fantasy elements in there based off of what we've seen with the concept art. It's going to be more of a traditional, or I would just say not so like mechs and all that, right? Maybe there are some mechs in some type of way, but it's going to be more of that old school RPG that maybe you'd see from like a Final Fantasy, or even like there's that game Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, that game, something that looks along the ends of that based off of the art that we saw. We saw like a knight inside like that big stone pillar place or museum or whatever the case is. We saw a lady with a sword with some armor on, you know, and the way that she's looking and everything like that. So it does seem like it's going to be more of like that Final Fantasy style RPG, or more of the different style that we've seen from other developers, and not so much like the Xeno style, right? Which is more of the aliens, mech based type of stuff and everything. So I'd be very excited for them to kind of switch it up just a little bit. I think that Xenoblade obviously is amazing. Xenoblade Chronicles, I love the Xenoblade series, but I think that Monolith Soft has grown big enough, and they've also got a lot of ideas stored up. Takahashi-san is one of the innovators in the industry, and he always brings some great stuff to the table. So it would be really cool if they did make like an action RPG where you have about like 4 people and you're kind of just fighting with a different style of combat than what we see in Xenoblade Chronicles. So I'm hoping that we see that at the next Nintendo Direct. I think that could be something that we do see. So it would be really cool. Like, let's say they have like a new trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, because we haven't even really seen the actual gameplay in there. They just kind of showed off some of the environments and then showed off like the remake of that trailer that they had, showed off the new area and everything. So I do feel that once they show that off with the new trailer and gameplay and give us all the info, they say, but we have one more little thing. Then they give us a little teaser for their next game. That would be such a cool way to kind of show off what the studio's working on and give fans something to look forward to outside of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. But there's also something else that we got to talk about here, guys, and that is the next port from them, because there are a lot of games still left to go when it comes down to it. But there's pretty much one game that I think everybody wants, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles X. That's the question that I get asked almost daily when it comes to Xenoblade fans, is when is Xenoblade Chronicles X coming over to Nintendo Switch? And there's good reason for that. Xenoblade Chronicles X is a game that's awesome, but at the same time it's cursed because it's only on the Wii U, and the Wii U is Nintendo's worst selling main home console of all time. Now, we've had Xenoblade games span across multiple systems, right? Nintendo 3DS, we also got the Wii, we've got the Wii U, we've got the Switch, so multiple different systems, and the Wii U is just the lowest selling one. So not as many people have access to play Xenoblade Chronicles X. So people desperately want that game on the Nintendo Switch. And you know what? It's a perfect fit for the system. It is a huge, massive, like seriously massive game that takes a lot of hours to complete, that has online multiplayer, has passive multiplayer, or whatever you want to call it, where you can recruit people's type of NPCs and kind of put them in the game and they can fight with you. It's just really cool. It's just a really cool game. The design of the game is great, but the Wii U holds it back a little bit because of the Wii U gamepad and having to use that. And if you're using a Pro Controller, you have to go and use the gamepad, and the gamepad dies so quick, the game's so long, so you're always charging your controller or always having it plugged in. So there was just some issues there with that, but that would be fixed on the Nintendo Switch, just like Tokyo Mirage Sessions was fixed with the whole messages and having to look at the gamepad. Same issue with that game, and that would be fixed on the Nintendo Switch. And the game is amazing. Graphically speaking, it's so funny because people talk about, you know, all these new systems and the big and better graphics, but man, if you look at Xenoblade Chronicles X, even on the Wii U, the game still to this day looks absolutely beautiful because of the design, because of the art. It's really top notch. They've got some of the best people working on the art for the game, and the game holds up. I think the game's always going to hold up graphically in terms of the Wii U, and what they did on that system was nothing short of miraculous. So I do think that Xenoblade Chronicles X will be the next port from them. Now, I don't know if they're going to announce it like at this Nintendo Direct or even any time this year. I think that the new IP is probably coming next. I think that's what they want to do after Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, because you have two of the older releases in a row, even though Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is enhanced greatly, and of course it looks amazing and everything. I don't think they're going to do the same thing with Xenoblade Chronicles X. Some people ask me, are they going to remake it? No, it's probably just going to be a 1080p 60 frames per second port. They'll probably just do that, or a 1080p 30 frames per second port of the game, just because there's really no reason to, and they already talked about the difficulty of bringing that game over, that it'd be quite expensive because of how the game was made for the Wii U, the data packs, certain things like that. It's not going to be a super cheap game. You can't just snap your fingers then all of a sudden it's done on the Switch. It would take quite a bit of work and production, so we'll have to wait on that one, but I do think that it will come at some point, just maybe after the new IP. Maybe it's like 2021 or something like that. Maybe it's next year, or maybe it's the year after. I'm not really sure, but I do think Xenoblade Chronicles X will come to a modern Nintendo Switch system. Whether it's this one or it's the next Switch, it's coming at some point, but I think they're going to work on a couple other things first and foremost. In the meantime, we got Definitive Edition that's coming out, Xenoblade, and we're going to have maybe their new IP, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they actually have Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, then they do Xenoblade Chronicles X, and then maybe we see their new IP to kind of top things off. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Either way, very exciting times for Monolith Soft fans, very exciting times for Xenoblade fans out there. So what are you guys' thoughts on all this different news when it comes to Monolith Soft? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the link in the description below. We've got Twitter. Go ahead and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.